Hi everyone, welcome. We are so excited because for book club today, we are talking about Meg and Jo. And even better is that we have author Virginia Kantra with us. We were having a delightful Kiki in the back, but also we are going to get into some book news in a bit. We have some new exciting imprints, so stay tuned. We'll talk about what we're watching on television as well, and lots more. But first, let us welcome Virginia Kantra. Hi.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a fun week and you're wonderful to talk to.
Yes, we were
We're
so
done.
excited to have you on. We started the party a little earlier
Yes.
by having a nice and wonderful chat. But I'm so excited for all of us to talk about Meg and Jo. Francesca and I chose this because we felt like we need more comfort, we need more warmth. We love Little Women, and yes, it's past the
Mhm.
holidays, but it's the perfect winter read. But I'm going to be very controversial right off the bat and ask what, or who rather, is your favorite March sister? I will start by saying, and then I want Francesca to answer, and then Virginia. My favorite has changed over the years. I feel, when I was younger, I definitely gravitated more to Jo. I think Jo was just an easy favorite right off the bat. But I think as time went on, I gravitated a little bit more to Meg. What about you, Fran?
Actually, the same thing happened to me because I've always been a big Jo fan. Don't really like Amy, so I'm just gonna punt that out there. But it was after I read Meg and Jo the first time when it first came out, I really surprised myself with how much I loved Meg's character. And then even like going back to either watching some of the adaptations of the original, I really always gravitate towards Meg. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you.
Okay. What about you, Virginia?
Like you, Victoria, it has changed. So I don't think there's a writer alive who at some point doesn't identify with awkward, outspoken, aspiring writer Jo.
Absolutely.
But one of the reasons that I wrote this homage to Little Women, which I grew up with and which grew up with me, is that my perspective of all of the sisters changed as I read it in my 20s and then in my 40s, and now we won't even say how
No, we
far
won't.
along we are. Let me just say at the moment, Marmee is my girl, you know. Um, but I was a like Meg, I was a young woman with small children at home. And when I reread the original Little Women, there are lots of scenes which I just glossed over as a child reader. She's worrying about money. She's negotiating things with her husband. It's the after the happily ever after. And so I loved writing Meg's character. It's been very interesting in the reader response. Some people who are at that place totally get it and are on Team Meg. And others are like, well, I really wish she did, like that was just boring. It's just a bunch of baby stuff. And I'm like, no, this is the after, people. You
Yeah.
pay attention. I don't know if you guys have read Beth and Amy.
Yes.
Yes.
Um, I was surprised and not very comfortable with how much of Beth I identified with. There's a shadow issue there, which I had not faced up till I had was writing the book.
Mm.
I was about a third of the way in and looking at her behaviors and went, well, shoot, editing myself for a podcast. So that was shocking. And I have such a soft spot for Amy. I admire her so much. And I think that's part of the appeal of Little Women is it gives us four different pathways to adulthood. It
Mhm.
gives us four different models of how women can move through the world with more or less success.
Yeah.
And there's something about Amy's artistry, Amy's determination, Amy's feelings of insecurity. I mean, no one is more like Jo than Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The difference is how they choose to survive and thrive and move through the world. And so I am kind of team Amy as well. So yeah, do I have a favorite sister? What day is it?
Thursday.
Yeah, so okay, well then today it's Amy.
Today it's Amy. I found that a lot of readers, yes, they gravitate to Jo. People eventually evolve. I gravitated to Meg. I started to like Amy, but for some reason, people are not big fans of Beth. Why do you think that is?
Because she dies.
But before that,
because she models a very popular concept at the time that Louisa May Alcott was writing. There was actually a poem called The Angel in the House.
Mm-hmm.
And Beth was the angel in the house. Interestingly, if you read stories about Louisa May's sister, Lizzie, on whom Beth's character is based, she was probably pricklier and sharper than Beth in Little Women.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, after somebody dies, what do? We say nice things about them.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think for some people, number one, I think the Victorian model of womanhood is passive and kind and self-sacrificing. We're a little less behind that as a role model for girls and women, and that's a good thing. Two, I think people like to identify with someone they can see thriving, and being an angel beaming down on one's family from heaven is not something a lot of us aspire to. We don't see that as a win.
Right.
I mean, we're all gonna end up there. It's just at what point in life.
But
yes.
Yeah, it's and then I think that while I say Beth is not necessarily a role model we gravitate to, I think that we dismiss Beth's strengths is a loss, because her strength is a quiet thing, but that doesn't make it less real.
Absolutely.
And like her sisters, she has a particular gift. The original Beth in Little Women is a musician. And so when I did my homage, that was an important part of her character that I kept, was that each of the sisters has a talent, has an ability. And I wanted to make sure, with however many liberties I took, there were certain essentials, the way the sisters lean on each other in hard times, the way they each have a particular strength, the fact that connection is good for us. Those were things I wanted to make sure that I retained, because that's part of you're talking about comfort, you're talking about familiarity, you're talking about coziness. Those were important aspects for me to retain in this reimagining.
Yes. I appreciated how you translated Meg Jo, because today we're talking about Meg Jo, but because I also have dipped into Beth and Amy, I liked how you took the women and put them in a contemporary setting and made things feel, in my opinion, extremely real. So Jo is a writer turned food blogger. Francesca and I have blogs, so that was kind of relatable. And I know lots of writers who, navigated towards blogging as a path. Meg is motherhood and domestic life and her choices, because there are lots of women who make that choice and then also eventually try to transition into, re-entering the workforce, how important was it to make it modern and accessible for readers today, but also staying true to original elements from the women?
Well, I think the original elements from the women, the book is about the tension between ambition and art and the need to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look, I mean, there's a certain extent to which a lot, even Jane Austen, if you look at her sisters, it's like, are you Charlotte Lucas? What do you have to do to survive?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of the issues were contemporary for, okay, I almost said Lucy Maud Montgomery because I just did. For Louisa May Alcott, who wrote 20 years earlier, I think these are timeless issues for women. And so to that extent, it was very easy to give them an update, but to say, I mean, our circumstances have changed. Meg Jo originally came out in 2019, where I was perhaps a little more hopeful about women's rights than I am in 2026. But I still think that we have options and we have opportunities and we have responsibilities that are both different and the same as our sisters from 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of the themes I feel are the same. Fran, any questions you have?
I actually wanted to do a little bit of a comparison between Meg and Jo and your new book that is out this week. Yay! Congratulations! It's Anne of a Different Island. Obviously, it's another inspired by a classic, but what are some of the similarities that you can kind of like put from you've also done another one that's classic retelling. So you've been diving into these. Do you feel there's always a thread that you're kind of making sure that it's in all of those books?
Yes. And I'm actually the one that I did not intend is that I seem to be writing a lot of would-be writers. Jo is an aspiring writer. Amy is, Beth is a songwriter. Dorothy Gale is an aspiring writer who goes to Trinity College writing program in Dublin. And then, of course, Anne of a Different Island, she is an aspiring writer with real issues. And I think at one point she thinks the world doesn't need another book about an entitled sad girl, with they don't need another story about an entitled sad girl trying to find her place in the world. And I'm like, well, then I'm out of luck. But as a matter of fact, I think they're all about women seeking to find their voice, seeking to find their place in the world. And most of them, just like every decent Hallmark movie heroine, seems to do so in part by confronting their past, which in many cases involves going home. And there's a certain extent to which the return to these stories that were so formative for me, that were so important for me, finding my voice, defining myself as a reader, as a writer, as a woman, as a human being. I'm going back to these formative stories as a way of figuring out what I have to say now. So I think that's a thread that connects them. And another thing I love about them all is when I read these books initially, I was young and happy and innocent and dumb and all that stuff. And right now I could use a little happy. And so, like the romance genre as a whole, one of the things these books do is give you, I think Anne says this, a safe place to land. So I can talk about things that are hard because each of the each of the characters in all of the retellings faces something that's been on my mind. None of them is without conflict or without grief. And yet I can invite readers to go with me on that journey because they have this beautiful, familiar, comforting setting. They have characters who feel a little bit like, despite none of them is a exact replica of the archetype, because they've been done and they've been done very well and they don't need to be done again. They're characters who are inspired by these classic characters, but they should still feel, when you meet somebody and it's not an old friend, but you feel that kindred spirit vibe, kind of the way we did when we all got on this call this morning.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that people feel like, okay, I know you. I can trust you. I can go on. I will walk this road with you. And then because of these gorgeous, fresh, happy covers, nobody thinks that they're going to invest 7 hours of their time or, $17, whatever it costs now to get a book. And then be left feeling devastated at the end. So I think that within it's like I'm holding you in my little cupped hands with my vaguely familiar, characters in a reassuring setting. And I'm saying, okay, we can go all the way to the edge of the cliff and we can, peek into the abyss, but I will get you to the other side.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think that's a thread that has run throughout these reimaginings of classics.
I would actually say even back to your older contemporary romances, because I feel like even your Dare Island series had some of that vibe and some of that feeling too. There was still a comfort and a familiarity, and there was going to be a pulling back from the edge.
Well, I'm really glad you said that, because as a matter of fact, like Anne, I have sort of been on this journey and spent a lot of time in these familiar places. And it has taught me what I have to say. So what I'm working on now is, in fact, a story which is completely original to me. Although set in a bookstore. So we still have that literary connection. But yeah, I'm thank you very much, Francesca, for mentioning the Dare Islands, which are still very dear to my heart. And I think as with these newer books, there's a big emphasis on family.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, as we're looking for ways to kind of comfort reads, things to get us through hard times, things to sustain us. And it some of it is families of birth, but a lot of it is found family.
Mm-hmm.
Like who are my sisters of the heart? Who are my kindred spirits? I think that is, or how can I look at the people around me differently so that things that seemed like a difference between us can be overcome, and we can connect in love.
Yeah.
So, because we need it.
We need it. We need so much more love. We need lots of soft places to land. So out now is Anne of a Different Island. I'm very excited to start reading this one. I know we all came here for Meg and Jo. So naturally, the next progression is Beth and Amy. I hope I have my books here. I hope you will join us and continue the conversation in the chat. But Fran, I'm thinking we need to bring Virginia back to talk about Anne of a Different Island, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You guys are such a joy, and I appreciate you and all of your listeners and all of my readers so much. I will come back and talk to you anytime. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Virginia. Bye. Well, everyone, hang around because our show isn't over yet. Again, thank you so much to Virginia Kantra for popping in and chatting with us today. Now let's get into the book news, everyone. We have book news. There are new imprints that are popping up. Okay, I find it interesting. We had 2 imprint announcements on the same day, mind you. So just in case you missed the news, there is Wild Thorn. This is a new imprint. I like the little tagline, get tangled in your next obsession. Fran, what did you think when you heard about this news as a start?
I mean, I think the only thing I've been thinking of whenever these new imprints pop off is why?
Well, first and foremost, if you are not familiar with the news, we do have links in the video's description. But I do want to say it's supposed to be a commercial fiction imprint designed to capture how genre and mainstream storytelling are increasingly blending. So genre blending. Wild Thorn Books is coming out from Tor Publishing Group. Again, there's a link in the video's description to the publisher's weekly announcement. They are saying they will publish commercial, upmarket women's fiction, suspense, paranormal mystery, magical realism, historical fantasy, and even speculative, nonfiction, with the first books arriving winter 2027. Still wondering why?
I am. I just feel like there's so much work, marketing, branding that goes behind an imprint. And I feel like they've been popping up so much lately. So I don't know.
I don't know. Well, we have another imprint. So you're going to have more I don't knows. So this one is entitled AKA Story. Yeah, AKA Story. So this one is coming from Abraham Books. Again, link in the video's description to the publisher's weekly announcement. I find this one super interesting just because this is Abraham's group. This is their first ever commercial adult fiction imprint. They are launching this one January 2027. They're going to have a tight curated list. They're promising 6 novels to start. And they said it is created for immersive, escapist storytelling, but built for the social media era with elevated packaging meant to look good both on shelves and online feeds. Okay. So I find that one is, very interesting. They want to be book club friendly, focus on community, conversation, and shareability. So their first list is going to have rom-com, lit fic, horror, and relationship-driven stories. So if you're not familiar with Abraham's, it's definitely a more lifestyle imprint than anything else. And now they're getting into commercial fiction. Are you still saying why? Why are we here?
I have a different question with this one. And it's more, I mean, obviously the why can still be there, but for this one, it makes sense only because, like you said, it's a shift in the brand. Whereas with the Tor, they have so many other imprints already. I feel like they could have just fit the book somewhere else. So here it kind of makes sense. My first thing that I got hung up on is the fact that it sounds, and it could just be how I'm perceiving it, but there was a lot of focus in the short press release there that you read on what the book looks like, and like how it's going to look on a feed and like the appeal of the cover. And so are we just selling the aesthetic of books and reading more so than the story?
That's what I'm thinking. And I would love to hear from you folks watching live, but also replay crew. Let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. I am just going to go on a limb and say yes, yes, and yes. This is all aesthetics. This is all vibes. Again, the full press release, because I gave a summary, the full press release is a link in the video's description over on Publishers Weekly. But that was my takeaway. My takeaway, first of all, is also Gen Z, book talk, visual. It's also why I feel they're overdoing the, special editions. And yes, this is coming from a person who has a beautiful bookshelf, not this one, but the one in front of me, where I film my YouTube videos with all my classics that I've collected. So I am definitely the target demographic for special editions. But now they don't feel special anymore because every old book is getting a design and edition. And do I feel they should be doing it for contemporary books? Absolutely. They always say don't judge a book by its cover, but in this internet, social media driven world, I think it is 100% all about the cover. With Tor, and I'm also not going to kind of like give them the pass either. So Tor's imprint, like we said, is Wildthorn. I was also thinking going back to that now and also kind of just like putting it together. I felt like Tor is kind of low-key acknowledging that genre lines don't matter. Like people are reading lots of genre blending books. And I would love to know for people in the comments, how do you feel about genre blending books? Because sometimes I like it, but I prefer knowing what I'm going into. And I'm not saying you have to stick tooth and nail to the genre, but it's like you can't call it romance if it doesn't have a happily ever after. You know, you can't just slap in. Well, magical realism became a thing because you couldn't just slap fantasy on something with just, you know, a little bit of like magical elements. So I think they want to dive into the genre blending, but I also feel like it's a recipe for maybe we don't know. I have to see the books for more of setting up expectations and then people expecting one thing and going in and getting something different. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I have a video coming out tomorrow on the channel that it's all about genre. So I do get into that. And I think that the biggest thing for me with genres, and I know that everybody has their opinions, and there's some people that feel like, oh, well, genres are like gatekeeping and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, for me, is there's a contract between the author and the reader. And when you pick up a book, even though, yes, you're going in for the unknown adventure of what the book is going to bring, but you still want like the big promise of what that book is going to give you. Like you said, if you pick up a romance, sure, the arc of how you're going to get at the end can go through all kinds of things, but at the end you need to give me a happily ever after. Otherwise, it's not a romance. And the thing is that I might be okay with picking up something that doesn't have that, but I need to know that going in, because usually people pick up books based on what they're feeling. Like, you know, am I in the mood to be emotionally destroyed and then somebody's going to die at the end? I will then go and pick up that book. So I think there are certain things that are important that even if you're blending genres, you still need to maintain, which is one of the reasons why magical realism, like you said, became a separate thing. Because when you pick up a fantasy, there should be some kind of an adventure. And with magical realism, it's usually not this big adventure. It's more real, everyday life kind of story. And there's some, you know, little bit of magic that happens. That's not like, you know, there's not sorcerers and big magic systems. So I think it's more like magic in the ordinary. And that in and of itself is kind of the expectation. When I want that little bit more whimsical story, I want to go and pick that up. And I feel like if we start pushing a lot on the, well, genres can just blend, which yes, I actually love when genres blend, but I still need some of the core things to be maintained so that I have my expectations met when I pick up a book. 100%. So that to me sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Well, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about the new imprints? Okay, again, both announcements made on the same day this week. Again, I find it super interesting that we're also starting the new year with new imprints, but let us know your thoughts in the comments. I forgot to mention with the book club, okay, we just covered Meg Jo with Virginia Kantra. Loved having her. Let me tell you, we had a little kiki in the back. I'm telling you, she's a real one. Okay, people, she's a real one. So her book, Meg Jo, that's what we talked about. The next one you can read on your off time is Beth and Amy, but I'm looking forward to reading her new one, Anne of a Different Island. However, we also have book club. So book club, we just did Meg Jo. Next month, it's Shanora Williams, okay? So be sure to get the library hauls in. If you want to buy it. And get ready, because in February, we are reading Whispers of the Lake. Don't say we didn't give you advance notice. And then the next one that we are going to read is Rules for Ruin by Mimi Matthews. That is going to be our March pick. So get the pre-orders in, get the library orders in, whatever you have to do. This is what we're doing. So again, Shanora Williams is going to be our February selection. If you're just joining us, replay crew, rewind crew, and listen to our chat with Meg and Jo. But come prepared for Shanora Williams next month. Can't wait to talk about it. Also, you know what? While I'm doing news, next week we're doing our January wrap-up. Tune in next week for the January wrap-up. It's going to be a good old time. You come with your wrap-up as well. Let us know in the comments the books that you've been reading and that you've been loving. But we also want to give you the February show. So we're kicking off the month with our TBR. Then we're going to have our book haul. Then we're going to have book club. And then we're going to have wrap-up again. So get used to the new format of the show. This is what it's looking like. So you also know what to expect. You know, we want you to come knowing what to expect each week with our shows. We're a little too big there. Woo! Okay, now let's get into our segment of where we talk about what we're watching, because we love storytelling in books, but we also love talking about what we're watching. Now, I know last week I told you all I was going to watch the adaptations. Listen, I did not watch the adaptations. I have books I'm reading for the spring reading guide. Okay, spring reading guide coming at you in March. So keep your eyes peeled. I have limited TV time right now. And for some reason, the adaptations are not calling me. Francesca will talk to you about that in a hot second. But for me, the adaptations weren't adapting. I don't know. I've been watching Bravo, everyone. I have been watching Bravo. It is what it is. I've been having a very good old time with, let me see if I can find that graphic for you. I've been having a good old time with Traitors. Like, Traitors just has been giving me life. It has been a good time. I know last week, I'm trying to remember who was telling me they were watching Traitors too, but someone said they were watching Traitors, and I was like, yay, we are on the same boat. The show is going on. You know, it's a game show. I'm not going to describe the whole game show, but I have been loving it. I was so sad, though, when they got rid of one of the girls. They voted her out. Her name is Tiffany. I remember her saying, it's Tiffany, like the company. Tiffany. Okay. She gave us a read before she left, and I appreciated it. So Traitors, yes, folks. So found the graphic. So we have Traitors up there. That's the crew. Okay. So Tiffany, there she is. She's number three, top row. Tiffany left. I was just happy Michael Rappaport was gone. I mean, he did have some moments, I will say this, in defense of Tiffany leaving. But then he was the next one to go. Michael Rappaport is the bottom right, second to last. Yeah, it is. It's just very interesting. It's a game show. This is the 4th US season. There's Traitors US. There is Traitors UK. There is Traitors Australia. No, New Zealand and Australia. Yeah. Australia, New Zealand. So it is a fun time if you want game shows. I think it's a how do you call it? It's a game, but it's also about friends and alliances. And I think it's a human study of how we look at people and perceive things of people, even though they are not that way and they're not traitors, because you're trying to find traitors. But it's an interesting human study, in my opinion. So that's what I've been watching. I've also been watching on Bravo the Valley Persian style, and I love it. I told you all last week about the Persians. I love them. They're back on TV. I think this is a solid season. So that's what I've been watching. I still haven't been watching the adaptations. I know Francesca's been watching the adaptations. And if you're wondering what is the adaptations that we're talking about, we're talking about this one. We're talking about this one. Has anyone watched People We Meet on Vacation? Let us know in the comments. And Fran, what was your assessment?
So, and I did talk already about the big other adaptation, Heated Rivalry. I think it was 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, or last week. But I have been wanting to watch People We Meet on Vacation. And I have to make a full disclosure here that I did not read the book. I don't read Emily Henry. Let's say I kind of judge it by the cover, in the sense that I feel like it would not be necessarily like my cup of tea. Not that I wouldn't like it, but it would be like an okay read for me. And I have been trying to steer clear of things that are going to end up being 3 stars for me for the past few years. So that was like my take on the reading part. But I was interested in the story and wanting to see it. And, it's Netflix. I thought, they're probably going to do a good job. I have thoughts, and you're going to have to correct me after you watch it, or maybe now because you've read the book. But production value was good. Like it's a cute rom-com. It was not bad. I'm not saying that I did not enjoy it. I probably ended up rating something like 3.5 if I had to give it a rating. It's funny because I was watching this with my husband, and I'll tell you more about that later. But like at the end, I was like, oh, this was just a ride. And he's like, why are you being such a hater? It was like, same like a Hallmark movie. It's okay, like a Hallmark movie. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. We're not watching Hallmark. We're watching, a Netflix movie, like a cute rom-com. But and it's funny because I have seen some chatter online, but not as much as I thought that I would be seeing. I don't know, maybe it's just my feed, or not as many people are talking about it. But I have seen a few people that were, both camps, right? The people that really, really love it and think that it's a good adaptation, even though they changed a couple of things. And then there's the people that felt like it didn't really give them the vibe they were hoping for. So for me, I felt that biggest problem is the fact that I did not like the main character. And funny enough, I saw so many people say that she was so much better than in the book.
Oh.
Would have killed me then. Because I just feel like she was, Poppy was very much those characters that are really trying hard to be very quirky, but at the same time, she felt so disconnected to me as just a human being, because I felt like what I didn't like was not necessarily how quirky she was, because I love a quirky character, is the fact that everything had to be about her. Everything had to revolve around her. And it's like, even when she's thinking, oh, I'm not going to do that, it's always around her. Like even the first scene is she's getting in the car, to go on this road trip from, I think it was Boston to Ohio. And listen, you don't know this guy. He's giving you a ride back to your hometown. He's already being nice and doing that. And she gets in the car and starts like eating a taco and like pouring sauce and all this stuff. And he's telling her, listen, be careful, because, shit's going to go all over my car. And she's like, oh, I'm fine. I got it. Like, hello? Like, you don't. Like, so immediately I was already like, I don't like you. Like, who does that? Like, just respect for somebody else. Like, he's giving you a ride and he doesn't want you eating in the car. Well, don't eat in the damn car. No. So I felt like that was a theme with how she behaved. And the hero definitely felt more mature about things. And obviously these two could have just had a conversation and there wouldn't have been a story, because like they're both all in their head and they're both obviously in love. And I really dislike stories where like that's kind of like the only thing keeping them apart, is the fact that they didn't like just speak up and go for it and try, when they obviously had chemistry and they had connection and da da da. So I don't know if it's any different in the book, because obviously there could have been more things pulling them apart in the book, but that's basically what it felt like. But the biggest problem I had was just the issue I had with the heroine. She just felt so self-centered to me.
I am going to reserve all, not judgment. Yes. I'm going to reserve all thoughts. I'm going to flush it out my head. Let's hope we get to I get to this one. It's just, listen, I'm reading. I'm prioritizing my television right now. So I'll see you all eventually. Listen, I will be going to that cinema though for Wuthering Heights. You better believe I will be there. So yes, it's crazy. I won't just turn on the Netflix and I just don't want to watch it when I'm not in the right mindset. But you let us know in the comments if you watch People We Meet on Vacation and what your thoughts are on it. Also let us know what you're reading and what you're doing. Whoa, I don't know what happened there, but let us know what you're reading. Let us know what you're watching. Let us know all the things in the comments. Again, be sure to tune in next week because we will be doing our wrap up. Hear me talking about TBR. Wrap up. We'll be doing our January wrap up. Again, we go live every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern time. So be sure to find us there. Again, this is our January calendar. Mark your calendars, 12 noon Eastern time. And then this is for February. But we will see you all. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.